The bag is getting heavy. You've been walking for 45 minutes, and you are fairly certain, not completely certain, but fairly, that you've passed that blue door before. Twice, maybe 3 times. It's a very distinctive door. You have a map, a physical one, folded slightly wrong, damp from your jacket pocket. You've been consulting it the way a surgeon consults an X-ray, with great focus and diminishing confidence. You have also walked past, at this point, 4 separate locals. A woman arranging flowers outside a shop. An old man on a bench with the posture of someone who has been sitting in this square for 30 years and knows every corner of it. 2 teenagers who made brief eye contact and definitely clocked that you were lost. You did not stop any of them. You kept walking, with the brisk, purposeful stride of someone who absolutely knows where they are going. You do not know where you are going, but you walk like you do, and that has to count for something. And somewhere in the middle of all this, sweating slightly, 40 minutes late to the place you came to this city specifically to see, a thought arrived. You could just ask. And right behind it, quieter, almost polite about it. No, I'll figure it out. Maybe it wasn't directions for you. Maybe it's the flat pack furniture you've been assembling for 2 hours with one piece left over that definitely shouldn't be left over. The symptom you've been researching instead of calling anyone. The work project that took 3 times as long because you wouldn't send the email. The details change. The pattern doesn't. If any version of this is you, stay with me, because what's actually going on is more interesting than stubbornness. Before we name what this is, let's be clear about what it isn't. It isn't pride, not exactly. It isn't arrogance or stubbornness, or an inability to function around other humans. Those are the easy labels. They're also not quite right. People who hate asking for help are not people who don't need it. They're usually the people who need it just as much as everyone else and have spent years developing very creative ways of not letting that show. There's a difference, and it matters. You didn't build this pattern because something is wrong with you. You built it because at some point it made complete sense, and it just never got the memo that the situation changed. So what's actually going on underneath all of that determined solo navigation? Social psychologist Vanessa Bohns and colleagues spent years studying the gap between how much help people think they'll receive if they ask and how much they actually receive. In her research, people consistently underestimated by nearly 50% how willing strangers were to help them, even with simple, low-stakes requests. 50%. They predicted discomfort, refusal, inconvenience. What they got almost every time was someone who said yes without hesitation. Plain language version, the fear of asking for help is built almost entirely on a prediction your brain makes about how others will respond. And that prediction is, statistically, very wrong. And here's what's wild. Even people who know this, who have read the research, who logically understand that others are more willing to help than they assume, still don't ask. Because the gap was never really about logistics. It was never about the map. It's about what asking says about you. And that's only half of it. Asking for help doesn't feel neutral. For some people, and if you're still watching, you probably know who you are, it feels like an admission. Like evidence of something you've been quietly hoping nobody would notice. The moment you say, "I can't do this alone," some part of you hears it as, "I can't do this," full stop. The alone disappears. Psychologist Heidi Grant, who has written extensively about why people avoid asking for help, puts it simply. Most people don't avoid asking because they're proud. They avoid it because asking feels like exposure. Like handing someone a map of the distance between who you appear to be and who you're afraid you actually are. And that's the trap. Not the request, the exposure. Here's the trick. The fear isn't of the question, it's of the answer. Specifically, what a yes might reveal. Even being helped can feel threatening because a yes means someone now knows you needed it. Now, here's the layer underneath that one, and this one isn't in your head. It's in your body. If asking for help has ever been met, even once, even years ago, even as a child, with impatience, dismissal, or the quiet message that needing things was an inconvenience, your nervous system filed that away. Not as a memory exactly, as a rule. So now, standing on a street in a foreign city, map in hand, perfectly capable of forming the words, your system is running a very old calculation, and the answer it keeps returning is the same one it always has. It's not that you can't ask, it's that asking still feels like proof. Right. Let's just look at this clearly for a second. You were lost, in a real place, with real humans nearby who spoke the language and would have needed approximately 12 seconds to point you left. You chose 45 minutes of committed, slightly sweaty, solo navigation instead. And the most revealing part? You didn't even feel bad about it at the time. You felt resourceful. You were handling it. You were problem solving in real time in a foreign country, which is practically a personality trait at this point, the handle it personality. It will walk in the wrong direction for the better part of an hour before it will tap a stranger on the shoulder. Dedicated, consistent, exhausting. And here's the irony that really stings. The people who hate asking for help are almost always the first to help when someone else asks. No hesitation, no keeping score, no making anyone feel small for needing something. They give it easily. They just cannot receive it. And they will spend years carrying that without once thinking to ask someone to help them put it down. Absolutely on brand. Let me say the quiet part out loud. You are not bad at receiving help. You are someone who learned at some point that needing things came with a cost, and you got so good at not paying that cost that you eventually stopped noticing you were still paying it, just differently, in exhaustion, in distance, in doing everything alone. People who carry this pattern are almost never who you'd expect. They're not the fragile ones. They're the capable ones, the reliable ones, the ones everyone calls when something needs handling because they always handle it. They've spent so long being the person who figures it out that somewhere along the way they quietly forgot they're also allowed to be the person who doesn't. Sound familiar? The cost is real. Relationships where you give more than you receive, not because you want to, but because receiving still feels like debt. Projects that take twice as long. Problems that got heavier because you carried them alone when you didn't have to. A tiredness that never fully lifts because you can never fully put anything down. Why? Because underneath the self-reliance, underneath the handle-it personality, there's usually one quiet fear. That if people saw how much you were actually carrying, something would shift. They'd see the gap between the person you look like and the person who's been white-knuckling it the whole time. But here's the thing. That's not weakness. That's not even stubbornness. Asking for directions doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're somewhere new, and you'd rather arrive than be right. If you watched this whole video alone, figured it all out by yourself, and are now planning to never mention it to anyone, yeah, that tracks. This channel is where we talk about the patterns that quietly run our lives, the ones that feel like personality, but are really just very old decisions that never got revisited. If any of this landed, drop something in the comments, even just 45 minutes, I've done it. Because there's something genuinely comforting in realizing how many people are out there, map in hand, refusing to ask, absolutely convinced they'll figure it out. There's probably a whole comment section of handle-it people quietly recognizing themselves and pretending they're just observing. You'll fit right in. And if you want more conversations like this one, the kind that make you laugh a little and be a little less hard on yourself, subscribe. Consider it your one guilt-free ask.
See you in the next one!